All right, we're going to be talking about graphing quadratic functions by factoring. So we're basically going to take what we've been doing for the past couple lessons and we're going to add on factoring. All right, so first off, let's look at our equation. So I know that A equals 1, B is -2, and C is -3. So with that, we know since A is positive, it's going to open up, which gives it a minimum. And I know the y-intercept is your C value. And axis of symmetry is your -b over 2a. So remember, it's negative, and then you substitute in b. And then 2 times a, which is 1. So I'm going to get positive 2 over 2, which equals 1. So this is your x equals 1. Now that I know, I'll write it in here, x equals 1. All right, now that I know that x equals 1, I'm going to take my original equation, and wherever I see x, I'm substituting in 1, which is what I did right here. All right, so make sure you square it, and then -2 times 1, and then bring down -3. Combine all those together to get -4. So this is your vertex. So remember, x is 1, y is -4. So those are, we've all done before. So now we're adding one more part to this. Now we're looking for the x-intercepts. To find the x-intercepts, what you do is you take your original equation, set it equal to 0. You're going to factor and solve for x. So do our a times c, which is 1 times -3, but it needs to add together to get -2. So when you go ahead and you find the factors that give you -2 but multiply to give -3, you've got -3 and 1, and then you have your two factors. So you're going to set this equal to 0, and then you're going to set this equal to 0, solve for x. So one answer is 3, or one intercept is 3. The other intercept is -1. So your two x-intercepts are 3, 0 and -1, 0. So remember, your x-intercept is when y is 0. All right, now we're going to take all this information and we're going to graph it. So we know our y-intercept. We know our vertex. We know our x-intercepts, and we know our axis of symmetry. So now that we've graphed all of those points and your axis of symmetry, we also know it opens up and it has a minimum. So let's look at the rest. So for domain, remember, you're looking at your x values, so it's going from positive infinity to negative infinity because your arrow's at the end. We know range, you're looking at your y, so it's going from here up, from the bottom to the top, so y is greater than or equal to -4. Now for increasing again, you're looking at your x's. So it's starting to go up from here to there. So that would be x is greater than or equal to 1. And then it's decreasing from here to there. So it's going to be y is less than 1. Now, we don't need to worry about positive and negative right now. But if we were to do that, we know that the positive parts are what's above. So from here to here, it's above. And then from here to here, it's above. And then we know from here to here, it's below. And that's what those would be. And that means a union. It's like a big U. You'll learn more about that in math too. So what you're going to do is we're just adding on the extra step of finding the x-intercepts. So this is all review. The x-intercepts, you're just factoring that. And I will say, remember, it is plus 0, so that's your hint. And then once you get your x-intercepts, you're going to graph it, and then you're going to you're going to complete the rest. You do not have to do positive and negative, so that one you can cross out in this case. Later on, we may have you do it just as a challenge, but you do not need to know how to do that one. All right, I also want you to do the same thing here. Again, you do not have to do that one, but you do need to do all the rest. All right, let's look at this one. All right, so first off, when you're looking here, if you were to rewrite this, it would be y equals negative 2x squared. We don't have an x, so it's really plus 0x plus 8. So when you're looking at this, a is negative 2, b is 0, and c is 8. So just make sure you're careful when you're doing this, that you're looking at all the values. So when you're plugging things in, you do the right value for it. All right. So we know that it's down because this is a negative a, which would make it a maximum because it would look like that. And we know the y-intercept is your constant value. I know the axis of symmetry is going to be negative b. Well, we said b is 0. And then we said it's over 2a. Well, we said a is negative 2. And once you have 0 in here, that's going to give it all 0. So x equals 0. And then now that we got that, we're going to take this and substitute it into the original equation. And wherever you see x, you're plugging in 0. So do this first, 0 squared is 0, and negative 2 times 0 plus 8 just gives you, gives you 8. So you've got 0, you've got 8, so this is your vertex. Okay, so we've got axis of symmetry, we've got y-intercept, we've got vertex. So remember, for x-intercepts, you're going to factor and then solve for x. So in this case, it's a little different with factoring because we can do a GCF. So I can factor out, because we want our leading term to be positive anyways, so I'm going to factor out a negative 2, and when you factor out a negative 2, you're left with x squared. When you divide that by negative 2, you're going to get a negative 4. So now that we've got this, this is a difference of squares, because difference means minus. That's a perfect square, that's a perfect square. So we're going to take your x's, square root, and put those each here. We're going to take 4, take the square root of 4, and you get your 2's there. Remember, one needs to be a minus, one needs to be a plus. Doesn't matter which one, as long as you have 1 plus, 1 minus. And then now we're going to set each part equal to 0. And solve. Well, that one we can't do because negative 2 does not equal 0. So that one we can just automatically cross out. And then here, add 2. So I got x equals 2. And then here we're subtracting 2. So I've got x equals negative 2. So your x-intercepts are at 2 and negative 2. So now let's go ahead, let's plot all those points. We said our vertex and our y-intercept are the same. So that's going right here. And our axis of symmetry was x equals 0. So it crosses the x-axis at 0. So I know if I'm 2 this way, I need to go 2 this way. And so you're just going to go ahead and connect it so it's going down. So now let's look at our graph and let's complete the rest. So our domain, since we have our arrows, is going to be all real numbers. So it's going from negative infinity to positive infinity. And then our range, remember you're looking at your y's. So we're going from the bottom all the way up. So we're coming from negative infinity and we're stopping at 8. So we can say y is less than or equal to 8, or you could write it this way. Either way is good. And then increasing is going up, going from here to here. So x is less than 0. And then it's decreasing, going from here to here, which is x is greater than 0. And again, you don't have to worry about doing those parts right now. Those would be for challenge. But for positive would be the parts that's above, which would be from here to here. And then negative would be from here to here, because these are the parts that are down. All right, go ahead, and then that is what we're doing. We just added an extra step of finding your x-intercepts.